little hat.
Whatever it is, exhaust something. That's interesting.
Actually,
You all set there, Tom? Okay.
I think I got you guys.
Dave, actually thinking back on it, had we made a big fuss and we're supposed to have a fireplace, they probably would have done it, but
And you know what they could have done? If that's a modification that the other person did, and you don't like it, they're supposed to restore it on their dime.
right,
I mean, that's, I don't know Carl, pick a seat, any seat.
right.
Any seat?
Well, any among,
Your table.
would you like to be a backbencher still, Carl? That's not the way
Can I
it's
have
gonna
your
work.
seat?
That's not the way it's gonna work, Carl.
Yeah, over there.
Anywhere you want. There's no assigned seats.
Are we having a guest?
owe you. big
Yeah,
time.
actually, I
Yeah.
went to see Michelle about the waste form this
On
week.
Sunday.
Yeah.
And we got talking, and she said.
No,
"Well, I'm gonna come to the
don't.
meeting."
No,
I like playing with you because you're better than me. I don't wanna play with someone who's.
For you.
we tied last time we
And
played.
she said.
That's right, we had a
But she's also
tie.
gonna bring us up to date.
Morning. Good morning, Kathy.
And see, board process. Kathy, I talked to Ann and she's gonna come in and present. She wants to come in early because she got a doctor's appointment. Are you gonna be doing the talking or is she?
I believe she is.
Okay.
Why not?
We'll make that happen as soon as we can for her.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, not working.
Trying to beat it into submission, Tom?
What's that?
Are you trying to beat it into submission?
Well, yes,
That's loud enough.
yes,
Okay.
or I can.
Who's gonna be responsible for the minutes going into the binder?
I think,
Is it Molly?
Molly.
Is she?
Uh,
Well, I'm Molly. Today for January, but somebody else has been doing it.
Including yourself?
Yes.
It's gonna continue, he said.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
that's a duty of the vice president.
When it's voted on, they're there. Okay.
Tom, just keep it open, let's go.
What did you raise your hand for again?
One never learns.
I know. Well, good morning.
Can't get away from it, huh? You got it.
Checking up on you.
You're easing out.
You won't be listed as a next or heading on the list. Oh, just as a note, as an asterisk.
I think you're worth more than an asterisk.
Do it any way you
Well,
want.
accept an asterisk as your full pay.
I'm an asterisk.
You're a risk, all right. I don't know how to quantify you there.
I don't either, so I can do it a couple
Ex
of
officio.
As a,
guest attendee.
guest note taker, guest secretary. Actually, somebody didn't want to give up the job. Booked Molly on a vacation and staying around.
Yeah, actually, my sister sent me a text this morning. Congratulations on not having to go, and I went, wrong.
Well, no, the word is not having to go.
Yeah, that's right.
You want to go.
Well, you have options.
You have.
Can't resist.
I'm sorry, we're gonna.
Exactly.
I know.
This is the high.
She, what she
You have
with
a
her,
book
her
matches
picture.
your best.
Oh my God, oh my God.
Somebody's
Yeah.
always gives.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
Give me pause for comment.
And you're barking up the wrong tree.
At,
What do
I know,
Yeah.
yesterday,
I put a leash back on.
Who's that?
Yeah,
No, he's not.
we got it. We got 8 with Molly and Don, so
June.
June.
And- and-
June usually walks in,
right on
you
time.
know, 10 minutes, so.
There should be 10 chairs for 10 heinies.
I know what it means.
Well, we
But I
have,
haven't heard anything going on.
Who else is missing? Oh, Michelle and.
When you have your coat?
Good morning.
oh, oh. No, I'm here, so. That's what we.
Make a motion that people have to pay.
They have to bring breakfast food.
I will make it some money, make it.
Oh, look at the snow.
Yeah, it was.
Hi, Margaret.
You're kidding.
Yes, happy New Year, everyone.
Put on my glasses so I can see it.
Oh, we're supposed to drive to Boston after.
No, that could be.
Is there a night person?
It's not even showing on the, what is
Yeah.
it?
Oh, maybe it's somebody with a bag that's his hand.
No, it's not showing.
Oh. That's not- that's the one. Oh, she's on vacation.
They're down on the cruise and then going to the Amazon.
Right, right.
I wonder if they would be convened as far as the outage, where we go.
They're not going to.
They weren't going first.
Oh, really?
They were applied to the Amazon area. So
I just saw that the power.
Boston today, 36,
Yep, and clear.
and winds up to 39 miles per hour. Keep a hold of that steering wheel, Tom.
Well, no, I was hoping the doors. Oh,
Right, well, using gas that way.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, but.
Good morning.
I'm Molly. I'm Molly today.
Oh, okay.
Join the peanut gallery.
Oh.
Join the peanut gallery.
There's one more person. There's General. That's it. Yeah, that's Molly. Well, that's Molly. That's Molly. Molly, that's why, that's why.
Oh, no, Tom.
This was. A whole bunch of.
Good, happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Yeah, I wonder.
Hey.
Hmm?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Yeah, no, I got it.
That's nice.
No, that's right. Betsy, can you hear us? Betsy, can you hear us?
She has her mic turned off.
Well, no, but then. Halima, can you hear us? Okay.
That's on her.
Betsy's mic's on.
Oh, you can see a little icon.
Yep.
She should turn the phone.
We'd be loud enough, she could.
Should have to straighten a couple of gallons.
Okay, now we can start.
Nope. You got 6 minutes.
No, but then we have
It's
you.
all kind of speak when it's good.
Oh, my things, I am not able to move without my things. It's ridiculous.
I'll be at the meeting too. Okay, I will too. I'll go. for Margaret. I do those stuff. She's down there. Chairperson. Yes.
So they could have view from here.
I sent,
Oh, my God.
I did the best I did. I didn't do, so I only got in this email, not all of it.
Oh, well, we got cozy with our book and they were predicting rain, so. I'm quite cold to cancel. No, did you get caught in the rain? Yeah, it was good.
Go to ask the, stay late here and work on a bit early because I got the certificate.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Obviously, right?
Charles Ciamprani, probably, Charles Ciamprani.
Well,
He's in Rome now.
In Rome?
Yeah, right, either way.
He's on Zoom.
Not having.
Maybe he's also.
Maybe some other Charles.
I like for, Thursday.
Maybe it's class.
But here's something that says.
Could be Charles Platt also.
Yeah, or Charlotte Cooper.
That's right.
That's.
Can we ask that they, put their name, or let us see who they are?
Yeah, I should see there. You don't take it somewhere else.
No, have to be quiet now.
Yeah, I got that last name.
Hillary.
Thank you.
I never. I gotta get used to it. Could get my eyes in the back of my head.
Headband with a mirror.
Plus.
Yes.
Can you ask? Either show who you are or what's your name, cause I.
Go ahead.
No sign in sheet.
In the other direction, your mic is on. No.
Yeah, there was no sign-in sheet.
Recognize the Char on the Zoom, there's a invitee that's come in as Charl, Charl. Can you identify your last name, please?
Or show your face.
Or, yeah, show your face.
Yes, it gave it.
He's in,
I guess they.
They might be muted.
they are muted, but
Yeah.
They are muted.
I will have to.
Okay, 10 o'clock. Can, somebody get the jar, please? Thank you. one of my old jobs. So John, there's no sign-in sheet because we don't have a guest. A recording secretary, we have an old throwback today. Ina has agreed to come out of retirement for this month to substitute for Molly, who's on vacation, so we appreciate that, Ina.
Yes, thank you.
And-
I thought you were on the paper.
No, we didn't mind the paper. We don't mind the paper around here. We always have the backside of the paper.
Yeah.
So, good morning, everybody. Welcome to 2025. My name is David Smith. I was elected president by my peers at our last meeting. I intend to have these meetings formatted and run essentially the same as they had been for the last 2 or 3 years. Your session early, a meeting, your sessions at the end. And when we're in session, the discussions will be among council members unless somebody from the audience is invited to opine or illuminate on something. I think that works well, and I hope it gets us through the meeting as well. I'm glad to see some new faces in the audience, but also some old faces. You should know that this. Some experienced faces. Some veteran faces. You should note that this council is somewhat unique from others in that we have 2 people on it who had previously served and have put their names in nomination and been elected by you all to serve again as Larry and Carl. I was not on the council with Larry before, but I was with Carl, and I'd be glad to work with both those fellows again. I live in a cottage, and that's what I mean. How to preface that was, I don't always know what's going on in this building. There are going to be issues that come up and are important here that you all will have talked about, maybe at dinner or just passing in the hall. The only person that passes in the hall in my place is my wife and my dogs, and the dogs don't say very much. So what I mean is, don't assume that I know everything that you all may know, and I may need to be educated on some things. When I said that last time that I had the seat, I just thought I was saying it, but in the very first meeting, something came up that was important here, but to a cottage person didn't mean anything. So we'll just keep that in mind. Having said that, I now open the meeting, but also at this point in the meeting, in the future meetings or now, if any of the other people at the table would like to make an opening remark about any topic, feel free to ask for the microphone and do so. So now we'll have our first year's session. Any hands?
Question about Wayne Lavender, a question about format. When does Michelle come? It's every other meeting. And is it the first of the month or the second one of the month? And secondly, Dave Roberts used to come, but I assume that he no longer comes here because he gives his weekly talk on Fridays to the community.
Answering the second one first, you're correct that we felt last year, and I continue to feel that since Dave does a thorough report every Friday and at the management Q&A, that we don't need to have him come in here and do a BP. As we get down the road for construction, maybe we'll think differently. Maybe there'll be a couple hot button topics that come up, but in the short term, I think that we'll stay with that schedule. On the first one, Michelle comes because there's a management Q&A at the third Wednesday of the month, and we meet first and third. Why have her come on the third or Thursday and talk about the same thing? So she'll be coming on the first. I did not plan on her coming this morning, since she and I hadn't met, but I wanted to see her about something else, and she said, "Oh, I'm planning to come." So we can expect her at 10:30 this morning. And I would say the first meeting of the month, every month, unless she's on vacation or something. Thank you. Jacob, before you start, I just remind you, you got a 3-minute limit.
Well, I'll tell you when the 3 minutes start. Very briefly, the last meeting of the council there was a mention about the new, supposedly old new policy about invited speakers. And I mentioned that there is a change. It's different from what we used to have, where we only had invited speakers from the outside signing this form. And it seems that now, in the last communication from Michelle, it was, no, everybody. So I understand Mel was going to give a talk on physics, and I don't know if you had to submit the things, but definitely this is not what used to be.
Yaakov is entirely right. It's a new policy and it's not particularly onerous. There were a few forms that I had to fill out, which were kind of innocuous, which I sent over to Bridget, and I think we can live with it.
Bill Larwood?
What's your experience on that for the Light Conservation Committee? You got a speaker schedule, right?
Larry Randall, we have never yet submitted one of those forms. When the speaker arrives on the day of, we have asked them to report to the concierge. And if there's any form signing to be done, apparently it gets on there, but I've never made arrangements ahead of time. I do keep the Gretchen certainly well informed as to who's coming and when. But I guess we'll have to become more formal now.
I thought you said that when Michelle was in the room last time, that you went to call Sarah because Sarah was on the new list she gave, and you went to Bridget instead, and that's what I'm asking about, what happened there.
Yes, Larry again, yes, you're quite right, but that was the first time that it happened.
Yeah.
Only because of the new policy as we then understood it.
So where are you with that?
Yes, we'll have to.
Did you go to Bridget?
I did go to Bridget, but not about anything other than what was brought up at the last time. Namely, the speaker for this month.
And she said what?
She said she said it wasn't her situation.
Where are we?
Well, where we are is where, when I brought that conflict or that inconsistency up at the last meeting, Michelle said, no, Bridget is the point person.
Larry, where did you go to reserve the room?
It's automatically reserved because we have a 3.5-year history of always having that presentation on the odd numbered month on the third Tuesday at 2 p.m. And Gretchen knows that, and I always confirm it with her, but
Good.
yeah, sure. Good, yeah. Of course, I also have to provide her with information from the newsletter, which is always a month ahead, more or less. Well, I have one additional thing. Although it doesn't directly affect us as residents, it might be useful for people to know that apparently the New Paltz School Board is going to be having a meeting here at Woodland Pond in the PAC, I believe, at 2 p.m. on Tuesday, having to do with the budget proposal that some of you may have gotten a ballot for, where there are 3 separate bond issues up for discussion, for votes. And there seems, certainly over amongst residents in the health center, there's been a lot of confusion as to which bond issue is going to be doing what. And so it's, even though none of us, as far as I know, own any real estate in this school district, the Woodland Pond does pay a pilot every year. And so we do have an indirect interest in what happens with the school board budgets.
You're still on the same 3 minutes.
No, different topic,
Carl,
a different topic. As chair of the Political Affairs Committee, I would have thought that this invitation will come through the Political Affairs Committee. That's exactly one of the roles of the Political Affairs Committee, to bring pro and con of invited speakers about issues that affect directly or indirectly the community. So I'm kind of surprised that this has gone and not followed the rules.
It's on the calendar, and I thought it came through your,
Absolutely not.
so if I was you, what would I do?
If you were me.
Yeah, how would I go about it? What is your plan for reconciling this?
I think Michelle should be asked about it. She must have been the
So
person.
that's two things we can ask her about already, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, sounds to me that she approved it or instigated it or called them or someone called her. And she agreed, which is fine in one sense, but I agree with Yaakov. It kind of skirts what she wanted to have happened.
So when she gets here, we'll inquire.
I just have a really quick question. Margaret Ninehouse. Speaking of the speakers, what about staff?
I understood the policy to be global. That is to say, for everybody, a staff person, a resident, a friend of a resident, a professional person, a whatever. But since we're gonna have that as one of two things to ask Michelle, Yaakov brought it up already, I'm sure she'll have something to say about it.
Last week when Rabbi Rena Blumenthal was here, she had to fill out a form, even though she's spoken before, and filled out papers as well. So every time they come in, every time forms have to be filled out.
Anything more on? Okay, so the meeting's now in session. Regarding the minutes from the 2019 meeting, Ina circulated a comment, and I think she said that at least one person had an amendment or correction. Does anybody have more than that? Can we get a motion?
Motion to
Tom
approve.
and Kathy. Okay, all in favor, thank you very much. All in favor of keeping us on track, thank you very much. Okay, communications received and sent. Old and new.
Larry Benjamin, as the new corresponding secretary, there have been no communications received either by email or in the copy. And nor have I sent any out in that capacity.
Can I ask you in the future, when you do the monthly thing for Woodland Life, to include our email address in there? Not that it's gonna create an overflow in our inbox, but just like the community to have the information. Okay, thank you. Ann Gordon asked to have a couple minutes with us today. She's at the bottom of the agenda under new business, but she has to go somewhere. So I'm gonna change the order of business around a little bit and ask Ann to address us. For those on the council, I sent you the very barest of minimum of information about what she's gonna speak about, just to kind of whet your appetite a little bit. I hope you all got that.
Thank you, Dave. I'm here this morning to ask the approval of the Residents' Council for the Woodland Pond Benefit Fund to make a donation of $500 to the Ashokan Center in appreciation of the concert given here by Jay Unger and Molly Mason. And if you want to know what the Ashokan Center does, briefly, it's a nature preserve, a historic site, a nonprofit retreat center, a performing arts venue, and an outdoor and environmental education destination for schools. Does that tell you enough? Jay and Molly were reluctant to charge us for this concert that they gave, but we have a budget for things like that. And I think it would be setting an unpleasant precedent for us to accept that gift from them without any response. And so the benefit fund committee agreed that we would send them a donation to their Ashokan Center. So that's what we're asking your approval of today. Any questions?
Great, would you address it to Carl?
No, I just want to make sure we approve it.
Please do.
Move that we approve.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Carl, a second. Second.
Okay, move the question. In favor?
Well, thank you very much. And could I leave this form with you and ask that you pass it on to Michelle for her signature? And I will pick it up from her office later today.
You sign it.
I don't get the check doesn't go through me, all right?
No, it comes, we,
Do you have a
it,
different form?
it goes no, it's from the Community
No, I'm
Foundations.
teasing.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. Can I have one of the microphones? Oh, no, nobody wants me to have two. Okay, so into the committee review, when I put together the agenda, and I apologize to all the members. I looked at the calendar and saw that there were no meetings, scheduled meetings on the calendar from the time we met on the 19th until now, so I just didn't ask you for any committee reports. So if somebody's got something to say about one or both or all of the committees that you're liaisoning with, now would be a good time to bring us an update. I'll take the other one.
Concerning the Design and Decor Committee, which is now known as the Art and Decor, John Wapner submitted to the marketing department a statement which I believe has been distributed to everybody via email. And if there is somebody that has a question concerning the policy, we can go into it now. Otherwise, I just would like to give a short memo here on the total report period of 2024, what has been accomplished and what is going to be the Art and Decor's policy going forward. First of all, there will be at the first meeting new elections for officers, and that would mean the chair and also the vice chair. Members are, of course, yet to be determined, although it is expected that old members be returning. What has been the key achievements during the course of the year, and I'll go through them very fast, concern the hanging of art in public places, finished independent living, labeling art in existing public space, and also photographing all that art with the help of the administration. The art in the hall between the concierge to the PAC has been replaced. All unneeded art in the storage room has been removed. There has been developed a hall art monitor system, which is in the process. It's not completed yet. And of course, there's been an update of the waiver and release of liability forms. There has been a revised statement of policy, which has gone to marketing, and there has been some revised procedures and also the displaying of art. That was basically what was accomplished during the past year, and I just wanted to get that stated, especially because of John Norton's hard work during the course of the year. And if there's any questions, now's your time.
No, any question? I think you said at your opening remark that this has been submitted to marketing, so it's kind of still a draft, is that?
It's still in draft form. It's a policy from the original Decor and Design Committee. It has a pre-date of October, but it's been sent to everybody via email.
Yeah, the one I sent out was dated December.
The one you sent out was dated December?
Yeah, December 24th, and it purports to, it's Art and Decor, so it uses that new name, Art and Decor. And it has Shannon Scaturo's name on it,
Yes, exactly. That,
Okay.
the original date was October. It has been changed to December.
but the December document is the,
Yeah,
is the
yeah,
current
that's
document,
the
and
document.
it is still a draft document.
No,
No, it's been sent to, to marketing.
Okay, it's been sent to marketing, but is it still a draft document? Is it policy?
no,
It's not policy.
Well,
no,
we get a feedback yet.
Okay, it's in marketing's lap right now, is that correct?
no, it's done. It's the committee's policy has really little to do with marketing. They've looked at it because they're gonna send some of the information on there to new residents.
Correct. But doesn't this council have some opportunity to review and opine on it?
Yes, that's why it's in your shoe.
Okay,
Or
so
your lap.
let's do that while we have the topic hot right now.
Yeah, at the risk of having maybe stepped on some toes I shouldn't have. When I received the, what I thought was a draft, but maybe is, maybe isn't. I set out to, make a few comments and try to make some clarifications on it. And, I found that the PDF as I received it I was incapable of, in the document, making changes to it. So I just wrote the whole thing all over again. But then I made a few minor changes to it, which can be taken or not. But my first comment is, why is Shannon Scaturo's name on what is a policy? Yes, as I understand it, that is to say, the Art and Decor Committee is supposed to work with management and making sure that the policies are carried out and that management approval is obtained when required. So I question the need or the advisability of having a specific member of management mentioned by name on a policy.
You want an answer?
Sure.
It was that policies that have come down through the ages have had the management representative on the committee on that document.
Well, it's one thing, in my opinion, to say that management will have a member of the committee. That's great. But I question why the policy should specify by name who that person is. That's all.
That's because they're the representative.
Until such time as she isn't.
Exactly.
So I think that it's better to simply say there will be a management representative and leave it as to who that is, depending on what year we're in or what month we're in or whatever.
Okay.
The other thing is that it doesn't, it says down near the bottom, residents are prohibited from moving art, et cetera, from any area. What if it is a piece of art that is owned by them and is on loan from them to Woodland Pond? Are they permitted from removing that art?
No,
Let me get
they're not prohibited.
So then that needs to be clarified.
Well, it's, what it is, that section has to match the resident handbook. The policy there, we made sure it matched what's in the resident handbook, so we didn't go against it. Okay, I understand your question, but when somebody makes a loan, it's understood that they have control, or their family does.
Okay. And also, it's my understanding that at least tacitly, there is a policy of residents being able to hang works of their choice, assuming it meets some kind of community standard, within X number of feet of their apartment door. Is
8
that?
feet.
Well, I think that should be in the policy
No,
statement.
see, this is our policy. This isn't for residents. This is our mark, our mission statement. This is the way the committee operates. This is the way our regulations for within ourselves.
So this will never be given to the And didn't somebody say this is gonna be given to new residents when they come in?
No, that's not what goes to the new residents. What goes to the new residents is the procedures for hanging art.
And that will specify that they can put up
Yes.
whatever they like.
It's really, again, it's just a re-emphasis of what's in the resident handbook, which so few people read when they start punching holes in the walls and walls.
Or any other time, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, and there will be at least 7 people on the committee. Is there an upper limit?
No,
And how are those individuals chosen? If they are chosen, or
Well,
they
yeah.
just,
if you come, as I discovered, if you attend 2 meetings, you're on it and you become chairperson. Without asking.
in other words, SOP.
Right now, we have, I think, 12 people.
Okay, well. I guess I have nothing else to add to this point.
Thank you, John. Well, while we have you on the seat, I noticed that there are some term limits for officers.
2
Yeah.
years,
I heard,
2-year terms, max, and then you have to get off as officers.
that is that how you operate now, or is that the proposal?
Well, that was in the original policy, which was, I could only find, thanks to Irvin and administration deep diving into their records. It was never formally approved, and all I had was one from, the most recent one was 2014. So I just started there, and that's one of the things we're trying to get done, is to get all these things in their pigeonholes.
I applaud you. The last time I was on the council, we took up the issue of term limits as it applied to all the the council committees and other committees, and we decided to leave that sucker alone.
Well, I saw that policy, so I stuck it in ours.
Each committee operates a little bit differently, and none of them seem to want to be big-footed into having limits on the tenures of their officers. So I personally applaud you for doing this. I think it's a good thing to
Thank
do,
you.
but whether it gets done more frequently or often, who knows?
As long as we're on the subject, there were some notes, I think, in Dave Roberts' reports to the effect that the people who were advising us on reconstruction were gonna purchase certain art for certain places. And the statement was made fairly strongly that we have a tradition here of using our own art in the halls, and we want.
Walk out here, look at that wall right across from the door. That's the management's art. If you go down the hall and you see the Truesdale stuff on the right-hand side, that's management's. They purchased a lot of things when they first built the building. And I think they want to leave that open for some areas that they might like to hang things in, I'm guessing. I mean, I've been in communication with Dave Roberts all along here.
Well, on the issue of purchasing new art for the reconstruction, I think somewhere along the line, maybe we need a strong statement from the council upholding the policy of giving preference to our own art.
Oh, I don't disagree with you on that matter. I don't think the committee would either.
No, so it's something to keep in mind.
Goodbye. And one more. Where's the other, Michael John's going? Hang on to it, John, we're done with you yet.
Uh-oh.
Larry again. I learned just last week from a meeting with Dave Roberts that I attended that there is an idea to post on the wall right outside the library, a kind of mural, I guess, depicting most, if not all, of the Hudson River Valley. And who would create that and how big it would be and so on and so forth. I wonder if you were aware of that plan. So, okay, so that's another piece of
Right.
the puzzle to try to make sense out of.
Okay, so John, we've made a couple of comments you might want to just keep in mind as you're going forward with this policy and appreciate the work you've done.
You the next guy.
We'll pass it on to the next guy or woman or person. I think you've done a heck of a job in your chairmanship with your inventorying and all that other, that we're doing the fun. So good on you, John. And I'm sorry, last night was a disappointment to you that you have to wait until tonight to find out who Penn State's opponent's going to be.
Doesn't matter, they're gonna win anyway.
Okay, from going to no committee reports, we had a pretty thorough talk there. Anybody else on any of their committees? Okay,
Excuse me, sir.
yeah,
Under new
lose
business,
this, sir.
yes, you're my leader. Art decor policy procedure under new business, is this the subject?
I think we just
Okay,
took care of that unless you think there's more.
well, I would imagine, when we got the policy, is that the responsibility of the council is to review it and either approve it or disapprove it. So do we want to table this until the next sessions? Cause give time for people to get corrections and feedback.
Are you on a timetable, John, with Shannon on this one?
The one about Shannon.
Yeah.
Which I tend to agree with you on, I will go over with her. We meet in a couple hours, so.
Does anybody else think they're gonna have anything more on the topic besides what Larry brought up? Not so that we don't hold John up for another. I like your term limit thing. Larry wants some clarification on whether a particular person's name should be on the policy or should it just be management? And
I'll check with Larry.
okay, and does anybody else, just so we don't hold John up, he's got a meeting in an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is. I guess that settles it then, John. Michelle, thank you for coming. Grab a mic.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
So-
Welcome to the new Residents Council compliment.
We had a couple things come up during the year session.
Okay.
That are for you. Two things. One is on the speaker's policy. Yakov brought up the point that the speaker's policy as will now be done is significantly different from what had been, in that now all in-house speakers and other speakers are treated the same. Could
So,
you speak to that?
yeah, it's actually not different. It's just we were not enforcing it. So that should have been happening all along because a speaker is a speaker is a speaker. And that I take responsibility for. So there was never any intention to treat them differently. It's just all of this whole situation brought to light the fact that there are more speakers. Frankly, management was not really paying much attention to it until this all came up. And now that we know, we have to put, the same policy in place, whether somebody's from the inside or the outside. So it wasn't with intention that it changed. It was kind of like just doing its own thing before.
Thank you. Yakov, is that? Oh, please. Waive the 3-minute limit and enforce it 1 minute.
Just adding the 3 minutes, I mean, to everything they say. The issue with the requests to get approval, there is two different areas. One of them is the coordination of the room and so on that goes through Creation, and it's been working perfectly so far, as I know. The other one was the issue of topics that may be an issue with 501c3 status of Woodland Pond. And the question is, well, I mean, we have a multitude of meetings here, basically at least 6 to 10 meetings a week on different committees and, and interest groups and so on. So how is this going to work? Because I mean, we have a weekly meeting of the current events. So we need to submit every week that, we have a meeting, the topic,
No,
discussion.
this is just for presentations.
for
Yeah,
presentations.
speakers,
Okay, but
invited speakers.
On occasion, we have an invited speaker either on Zoom or somebody that comes and, deals with questions at the meeting. Basically, is making a presentation with the opportunity of people to discuss and, voice their opinion and argue
Right, but that sounds like it's coming up more organically as part of just a committee or an interest group, so this is strictly related to someone's invited to come and speak on how to make sourdough bread or something, whatever the case may be, so it's someone that's being invited to come give a presentation, it's not organic, it's, this specifically excludes current affairs, or current events, those kinds of things, because that to me, as I understand it, and I could be wrong, but is more of a, I know it's somewhat curated because there are, people that facilitate the discussion, but it's not a specific person being invited to speak on a specific topic as sort of like an expert or like an enthusiast, right? So it's more of, we're gonna get together and talk about whatever's coming up and more of a discussion like that. If I'm misunderstanding it or misrepresenting it, I stand to be corrected, but that's how I understand it to be.
Okay, the other question maybe I should,
Go ahead, it's,
Yeah.
similar. Go ahead.
yeah, I mean, since I'm already on my 3 minutes. I just learned that there is going to be one or more invited speakers to speak about the proposals of the school board. And this is exactly in the realm of the political affairs committee. And I was very surprised that this didn't even come up, it was not brought up to us. I don't know who initiated that, and how do we assure that, we have kind of unbiased presentation, because that's one exactly
Right.
issue that,
And I
it's a-
agree with that 100%. And so and Bridget's out this week and I'll be able to address that better next week, but I still think that the process has holes in it. So the process, I think, is a good one, but somehow things are slipping through the cracks, and that's a good example. I don't know yet who's invited, but in my opinion, if someone is coming to advocate for the pool, from their position, it's the responsibility of the political affairs committee to ensure that there's an opposite opportunity to be presented as well, and it sounds like maybe that didn't happen.
It wasn't even, he wasn't, as a chair of that committee, he wasn't even aware that this was on the calendar until Larry mentioned it in connection with something else.
Right, and so that's why it's critical as part of that process. The process says that the related committee has to have bought into the speaker. So somehow it sounds like that did not happen. So I'm gonna have to go backwards and figure out why that's the case and reinforce with Bridget and Gretchen that that cannot happen. And I think part of what's maybe missing is I don't think that there's like a process form for the sign-offs, and maybe that just simplifies it. So then this way Gretchen knows that Bridget signed off on it and she can schedule it, but then also that the related committee signed off on it, similar to how we do requests for the benefit fund. So that has a very simple form. We could use the same format that basically says, where the benefit fund signed off on it, management signed off on it, and the residents council signed off on it, except in this case, the speakers don't have to be signed off by the residents council. And is the actual pool discussion, it's actually scheduled?
Yeah. For what exact date, but it is on that master calendar.
Okay.
When is that?
It's my understanding that that the bond proposals are 3 in number, and the idea of constructing a pool for the high school is the 3rd of those 3. And if the first one is disapproved, then the next 2 don't even get voted on.
I'm asking more
So it's
specifically.
confusing, it's very confusing, that's really the issue.
Yeah, so I think what I need to track down, which I'll do as soon as I'm done with my 11 o'clock meeting, is what we have on the calendar related to the propositions. It's been a little bit challenging the last few weeks with the holidays being the way they have. It's just been kind of lost time, but Bridget's also out of the office and Gretchen's been out. So let me find out what's going on, but normally what should happen in that case is if somebody at Woodland Pond, whoever it is, has opportunity to have a speaker like this come forth, it would have to go to the political affairs committee, because to me, that's specifically talking about political propositions that are gonna be voted on. So that's a specific voting issue, so it should come through political affairs. That's the associated committee at Woodland Pond. And then it should go through Gretchen for the calendar and Bridget for the corporate compliance issue, and then that's how it should be done. So that's the normal process. Now, sometimes there's not gonna be an affiliated committee, so for example, if somebody wanted to come, talk about how to make sourdough. I mean, technically, we do have a dining committee, but they don't really talk about recipes and those kinds of things, so in that case, it would probably be Gretchen, and Bridget, and whichever resident wanted to bring that forth, and it would probably die there, but if there is an affiliated committee, it should run through the committee, it should never be a surprise to you. The committee should be having a great deal of insight into it and having discussions directly with Bridget if she has any questions. And whoever wants to have them come forward. I think it's very good for the residents to hear about the propositions, because I think there's a lot of noise in social media right now, a lot of argument that's happening about the benefits of the pool or not, but I believe, Larry, to your point, is the capital budget for the district approved, I think, is number one, and then as a subset of that, also a pool or not a pool or whatever, so.
We all got this, excuse me, probably 1 year, I got this in my mailbox Saturday, Tuesday. Yeah, so
Like from the mail?
from the Newport School District, a multi-page newsletter, if you will.
Yeah.
Was it Ronnie Sue? Please help me, speak me happy with.
Could I make a suggestion that since we don't know who instigated this or initiated it is the right word. We have so many new residents and many of the existing residents don't know these new policies. Is it possible for maybe you to discuss this at the next Q&A or your Tuesday video talk? Because a lot of us don't know the new, and as you know, there are so many new residents, I think everyone has to be brought up to speed.
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing is that there should be none of us should ever be caught by surprise by a speaker that's coming. There shouldn't be a question of how they got on the calendar, and if there's a related committee, the committee should have insight into the fact that somebody's been invited, and right now, I still feel like we're kind of operating in the blind. I think if we can come up with a good document that outlines the process, we have the steps, but I think we need actually a sheet of paper that says, this was signed off by so-and-so and so-and-so, and it went to this committee. And then that there's no surprises, because one of the things that in particular, the Political Affairs Committee is responsible for is making sure that both sides of a political issue are given an opportunity to present. So they may choose not to come. Let's say that there's a proponent and we invite the opponent. If the opponent chooses not to come, that's okay, but we have to be able to document that we invited them.
So when is this supposed to happen? I mean, I just.
Well, it's all supposed to happen before it ever gets calendared,
No,
so
when is this?
I don't know, I have to find out when that's supposed to happen.
But if it's in a couple of days, I don't think.
Well, it's not this week. It's not this week, it's not this week.
It's on the calendar
Yeah,
for next Tuesday.
Okay, so I'm gonna, as soon as I'm done with this, my 11 o'clock meeting, I have this, and then I have an 11 o'clock, I'm gonna look in to see what I can find out. I think Gretchen's here today. Bridget is not, but Gretchen should be able to help me figure it out, but this kind of confusion should not be happening. And I think that the process, if it follows its route, will work itself through.
So what about my suggestion?
Yes,
of
once
forming?
it's, yeah, I mean, once we decide if we're gonna use a form or not, we'll just continue to reiterate it so that people understand that this is the flow.
Just a quick question. Hi, Dave Stevenson, back to the speaker approval process. That goes for everyone, but let me give an example. For Men's Coffee, occasionally I've been asked to show things from PBS.org or from Netflix. And I do talk about it, introduce it. Am I a speaker? I don't think so. I think, but I'll fill out.
I would have to, I guess I would have to understand how that comes to be a little bit more, and there are a couple of places here that we sort of don't dip our toes into, probably it's for the best. Men's Coffee is one of them. Current Affairs is another one, or Current Events.
Okay.
What we're trying to do here is really balance, and in that case, would it be pre-announced that you are gonna be discussing that, or is it just something that
The
would come
previous
up?
week, not on any published, schedule, but
Yeah, I
it
mean,
was the previous week.
What we're trying to do is just make sure that there's an appropriate amount of oversight without being overkill, and I really don't want to
Well,
be policing
and Men's
everything.
Coffee, for example, we have had invited speakers, and I think they would have, you know, from the outside, and I think that would apply to this sort of situation.
I would say if you're having somebody, anyone that's coming in from the outside, regardless of which committee it is,
Right.
they should be going through the process. In terms of internal residents having an interest in something and saying like, we're gonna talk about stamp collecting at Men's Coffee, everyone that does stamp collecting, go ahead and talk about it. I mean, that's the kind of thing that I wouldn't wanna have to get involved in and have Bridget get involved in. But I think we just have to kind of navigate this as we go, but that's not the intention,
I didn't feel it was, I
Yeah.
just wanted to clarify that.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a form for you.
Okay.
Commission Benefit Fund, Ann had just made a presentation and asked me to sign off and then give that back to you.
Okay.
So, Wayne had asked earlier, what your schedule is for this year, and I informed the group that you plan to come to the first meeting of the month. And then educate and, illuminate to the community what's going on at the Q&A as well, so we've had the advantage of you twice a month here.
And I can come more often as needed, obviously. Does Dave still come to the second meeting?
No, Tom dropped that in favor of him doing his weekly, updates.
That's fine.
You had Q&A on Wednesday,
Yeah.
and us on Thursday, and him on Friday. Was
Too much.
much for him than for us.
Yeah, that's fine. We just wanna make sure that we have enough avenues to make sure the residents feel like they're up to date on where we are with project related stuff.
I think, speaking for me, and hopefully for the group, if we feel like that Dave has missed something or we're not clear on something, we would feel that he's open to being invited into,
He agreed that at any time he would come.
Okay, and he definitely will. So let's leave it at that.
Except
yeah.
He's off today.
Having signed the form.
As an invited speaker. You're a bureaucrat too.
That's right.
And so, was in Michelle's office this morning on something else, and she told me she was coming today. Was there something I would like her to speak about? I said, yes. I'd like her to bring the community up to date on what is going on with the board and its selection of 2 resident directors. So could you speak to that?
Sure, I can speak to that. So, right now, the governance committee is in the process of, they've now been in receipt of applications. Well, a full packet on each of the applicants. I think we have 8 or 9 that applied, which is significantly more than we thought. I know that there's been a question about whether we can officially announce the candidates, and I am waiting for the permission from the governance committee to do so. I wouldn't hold your breath to have it be an official announcement because we don't announce candidates from the community that are candidates, should it not occur. That being said, everyone on the residence council currently and everyone on the prior iteration of the residence council pretty much knows the list because you were asked to opine on those applicants or will be. The way that the bylaws reads, the Woodland Pond bylaws, not the Residence Council bylaws, but the Woodland Pond bylaws, which is what dictates this process, is it states that the Residence Council presents residents for consideration. I think it uses the word nominates. However, there's been some conflation of that in that somehow somebody or some bodies applied a count to that number. So for some reason, it's been thought that the Residence Council is supposed to provide 2 nominations, but that's not actually accurate. There's no number stated. So what the governance committee has asked of the Residence Council is that all qualified or all interested candidates be put forth. So at this point, all residents were instructed, as I understand it, that if they were interested in applying, that they needed to submit that interest to Lindsay collected the items on behalf of the Residence Council by December 13th, I think was the date. Each person was asked to present a bio, a resume, and then everyone that we became aware of that was submitting an application was presented with a survey in SurveyMonkey, which asked a series of questions that the governance committee derived, which related to, you know, basically what's your applicable experience, what's your interest level, what's your current knowledge level, familiarity with the board, and then ask questions about different quantifiable things like what do you have experience in, finance, not-for-profit, blah, blah, blah. So at this point, the completed packages for the 8 or 9 people that included all of those items went to the governance committee members of the Woodland Pond Board, which there are 6, including 2 residents. So both Ray and Dick, as I understand it, are both on the governance committee. Next thing that I expect to have happen, I'm just waiting for confirmation again, some of the governance committee members are out of the office, but Dick and Ray are anxious to meet with the candidates to talk about the role and the responsibilities of being a Woodland Pond resident and board member. My belief is that the governance committee wants that to occur, and I'm hoping that it occurs expeditiously. This would basically be a Q&A. They would give presented information about what it means to be a resident board member, and some of the considerations, and talk about their experience, also be able to ask questions. I think that the goal of the governance committee is that after that meeting, if there's anybody that has applied that no longer is interested based on what they heard from Ray and Dick, or feels that they cannot adjudicate their role based on what Ray and Dick say, that they would be given the last opportunity to take their name out of the running. And then from there, the typical process that the governance committee would follow would be they would call in each applicant that's still in the running and interview them individually. So I would expect individual interviews to happen. So because there's so many people, that's gonna take time, you know, because you've got to get the whole governance committee together and then do the applicants. So what may end up happening is it might be like a round robin where the governance committee members, let's say, commit to being here for 4 hours one day, and they bring in each applicant for a half an hour or something, just so they can knock everybody out. But that's total speculation. That has not been discussed. But there are a lot of, and they want to do individual interviews. So, you know, our hope initially was that we were going to have the folks named by the end of January, after the January board meeting, but I just don't think that's going to happen given how many applicants we got. We were expecting to have maybe 4 at the most based on last time. So it's great that we have a lot of interest, but it just delays how long it's going to take to get everybody through the process.
Jakob?
If I understand correctly, basically the role of the council and basically the residents, it's only to announce that there is openings, because the council doesn't have a role on either pre-selecting or recommending any of the candidates. Is that my understanding what you're saying?
Well, not necessarily. I wasn't here to hear what my understanding is Chris explained to the residents council last week or 2 weeks ago what your role is. I was not here. So whatever Chris said the role is what the role is based on the bylaws. And so the bylaws are not specific as to exactly how the residents council is supposed to do this. But what has come forth is that the governance committee and the board feel that it's really important that the governance committee be the one that select the candidates just as they would from the community at large, and not have those be pre-selected by the residents council. So the residents council role, in my viewpoint, because each of the residents council members from the 2024 council was asked to provide confidential feedback on the list of applicants, which the governance committee now has in hand. And I think that in some ways serves to inform the governance committee decision. But I think part of what's complicating it this time is that of the 8 or 9, I think 5 are on the residents council right now, which was only going to leave 4 people, which wouldn't have been a quorum to even put together nominations. So because the bylaws leave room for leeway, Chris instructed the residents council as to what he wanted from them. And I think it's something that will definitely come up. We do bylaw revisions once a year. So if we look at this process and think maybe it was too gray or it needs to be more tightly clarified, that will go into the bylaw revisions for the 2025 revision. But I think right now, it seems to be working pretty fairly. No one was excluded from the process. A wide net was cast. Everyone that completed a full packet is in consideration as far as I know. No one's been precluded. But we're just waiting for guidance on the governance committee, but I do expect the next thing to happen, which I'm hoping is gonna happen in the next 2 weeks or less, is to have Ray and Dick sit down with the 8 or 9 candidates and do like the, you know, a summary on what to expect as a board member. And being a resident, because they both have been doing it for 9 years, and both are very active on every type of committee.
So, Yakov, the only, in our own bylaws, not the board's bylaws, but in our own bylaws, the only reference is that the council shall recommend candidates to the board for available resident seats on the board. That's the only part of the clause. The chatter among, this hadn't been done in 9 years, so there's no ongoing corporate memory or institutional memory. And so when the process, Michelle said like last year, this board's gonna have to do something, I think she had in mind something else. But I think that the governance committee is doing the right thing, taking it out of the hands of the residents to get too deeply involved in this.
Right, yeah, you actually mentioned what I was about to, coincidentally, we have agreed that we may be needing to revise and update our bylaws, the resident association bylaws. And as they have just said, Article 3.2 now says the council shall recommend candidates to the board, blah, blah, blah. And obviously it needs to be taken out.
Well, no, we recommended, we don't, you're right, what the word recommend is the governing word there, right? Yeah. So. More on the topic for Michelle, who's up against an 11 o'clock meeting. Okay, thank you. Thank you. You have more, please?
I don't think so. I have some homework assignments as a result of the meeting, which I will go take care of. I'm happy to be assigned work at any time. And, you know, I'm looking forward to 2025. I think it's gonna be a good year. I think that we have a lot of good stuff coming down the pipeline. I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good,
Thank you.
could you just ask her about the staff,
This,
the staff being having, when you have a staff person on a committee, do they have to sign? You know,
was that for speakers or was that beyond committees, Margaret?
No, I'm not talking about being.
You mean like if one of us is speaking? So we all have to sign, when we get hired, we all sign the corporate compliance. We sign a handbook that, the whole first, I think it's like 25 or 30 pages of our handbook is our corporate compliance requirements. So every employee has to sign off on that, and that very deeply enumerates this, so we all do that as part of our being hired. But in particular, anyone that's an executive, on the executive team, which is basically all of my direct reports, also signs an annual additional certification for compliance and conflict of interest, so. Yes, and that's why it all sits within Bridget's world, so she makes sure that everybody's, where it needs to be. Thank you for asking that. All right, I'm gonna go.
Thank you.
Market meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Get back to the exec session. Were we done with committee? Various committee reports. I thought we were just before I move on. And I think that we've already done the council topics. I just want to remind people that at our last meeting, Tom revised the calendar for next year. And that our quarterly residents association meetings aren't going to be 3, 6, 9, and 10 months. They're going to be 2 for February. So we need to get shaken on what we want to present to the community in February. There's only 3 meetings away. And I don't know, Tom, if you have a reservoir of topics that you were saving to present or not, but we're open.
No, but I can go to the well again and see what's there.
Do some culling and see what you can come up
Okay.
with.
And I'll send that out next week.
Yeah, but if anybody's got something that they, I like the way Tom was doing it. You know, overviews and specifics, and switching the focus from meeting to meeting. But we have a meeting coming up in a month and a half, so let's, or 2 months, let's get it going.
Okay, thank you.
I think we did the art and decor policy. I asked you all to review the bylaws with an eye toward seeing whether we think there's sufficient gaps or overlaps or redundancies or whatever that we might want to revise the bylaws for this in this coming year as a committee. Did anybody come up with anything significant? And I'm not using today as a drop dead deadline. I just want to get a little bit of a topics, a little bit of a conversation started to see if there's just minutia or is there something, some significant items in there? Larry, Larry's been doing some homework.
Sorry, yes, well, I don't have a spouse to answer to, so.
I don't need a lot of specific, but have you found some things, Larry, you think there's?
Yes, for sure, the enumeration of committees in the current bylaws
Absolutely.
need to be reworked because there are only 6. And we obviously have something like twice that number of
Well, there's
committees.
different kinds of committees.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
but I'm talking about committees we think of as resident council committees as opposed to interest groups or something else.
Was that the only area? I have that as a person.
Well, yeah, they roll 4-7 Woodland Pond Board liaisons, plural. Since I'm now, for my sins, the liaison for this year to the board, that's not the same as being on the board as a resident member, and it's a little confusing as to who is a liaison and why it should be potentially plural, and who is a resident member of the board. So I think that needs to be clarified.
Okay. There's a history for that, is that at one point, the board asked for more than one. And then they didn't, but that language was put in during the time when they did want a couple.
Yeah, well, at one point during my tenure, a few centuries ago on the board, on the council, there was no call for a liaison.
Oh, it's been back and forth.
Yeah.
Got more? Okay. Others? Let's keep this open for a couple of minutes. Please do spend some time reviewing it. And I don't expect everybody to get, you know, an in-depth understanding in one read. You gotta read it a couple times and maybe some things that have happened in the meeting or just in general community life will say, hey, how was that addressed? Thank you. Council connections, Yakov has secured both a speaker, or excuse me, an interviewer and an interviewee for later this month. We got Phil Cavallo, and we have Ina as vice chair of the dining committee is going to do the interviewing. Yakov, if you have something else on that topic, I'll be glad for you to. It's all blurry right now, isn't it? Nothing fixed yet, is there?
I'm working on that.
Okay, I know you and I have talked. I just if you had something to announce.
Nothing.
Okay. And we had our management discussion with Michelle, so. Second year session. Jeffrey, you had your hand up earlier?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Jeffrey Gibson. Hi, I'm Jeffrey Gibson. As I understand the policy, the people allowed to speak in the committee reports is restricted to people, you know, to members of this committee. I think that's the policy, but luckily, what happened now is that several people were invited to talk, even though they were not members of this council. And I think that's a very good idea because what John had to say and what someone else had to say seems to me to be quite important. So I would like the policy to be not what we're what I would like to see is not the policy, but the way that we've actually gone about it, that people are allowed to speak, particularly if something comes up in the ears, both the first and the second. The second one, the other point I wanted to point out is that the policy, not so much the policy, but the community standard, which John's committee says applies. I'd like to know more about what it is, because there have been some pictures taken down and some others that maybe it should be space for them. So at some future meeting, I would like John to be able to maybe discuss this. What is the community standard to be applied for choosing something or neglect or neglecting to do that.
Thank you. Responding to your first question, your first point, I thought in my opening remarks, I identified that during the committee report section, if we may have somebody speak if it was germane, and I agree with you, it shouldn't be totally closed. And Carl, if you need to leave now, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, the second point was, what is the community standing?
Other people wanting to make comments.
Big mouth Larry again. Speaking from my experience with Artscope going back almost to its inception several years ago, it seemed to me that the one standard, if I can call it that has been in place is that nude artwork representing the human nude is not welcome. I personally think it's silly, but if that's a policy, then I guess that's part of the standards.
Is that the policy?
Yes,
It's an unspoken policy, I believe, yes. John?
yeah, that's an unspoken policy, and also political statements.
Yeah, I thought I had read that. I'm looking for your document. I think I had actually read that. Political points of view and news, but.
It might be in the handbook.
You're right, it may be there and not here.
If I might, David?
Sure.
Jeffrey, if you would like to get more information about the process that the Art and Decor Committee goes through, go to their sessions. That's where they make the decisions. They bring their responses to us, their decisions, but the development of those decisions are done in that committee. So asking us what they're doing is probably not the right way to do it. Go and sit and listen to it being developed. Okay, my recommendation.
One thing that's changed in my tenure is that the group functions in exactly that manner. Whereas the past, it was a little top down. Now it's committee up. I mean, some of our discussions get pretty damn heated.
Good, we need heat in this building.
Is this lewd? Or is this lewd?
We can save some money on fuel here.
Well, we'll meet in the pack next time when it's cold.
I have a couple of comments from the discussion previous. One is the mural that was referred to that Dave is planning for the main, I'm not sure quite where it was, but somewhere, these museums that have fancy, dancy, bright, whatever, and he's planning for the Hudson River. I think a photograph, not just a drawing, but to me, that a lot of what is being planned feels so cold and commercial and stark, and I've been with the decor a little bit and with Dave too discussing, and they say, but anyway, this is a very large picture, all neon, the way they do. And I think I question the wisdom and the attractiveness of this representation out here. So, and I plan to mention that to Dave, but I just wanted you to be aware of what was envisioned by the designers for this place, and it just, anyway. And the other point is the resident directors are now even, and as far as terms go, because they both started at the same time. So I didn't know if it had been considered to have one
elected for a 3-year term and one for a 2-year term at this point. It's really none of my business, but I didn't hear that mentioned. And I'm not sure how that's being handled or if it matters that they're both on the same term. And also, I thought the term limit initially was 2 3-year terms. And they've been on 3 3-year terms. So I don't know whether that's part of the consideration of anybody, but I thought it was worth a comment.
Okay, so from the beginning, with respect to the mural, I'm hearing all this for the first time today, but at the Q and A that's coming up on the third Wednesday, you might bring that up and ask for more.
We should even look at it before they do it.
Well, that's what I'm suggesting is we get in front of Dave or ask Dave to speak about it as one of his Friday chats, which he won't have tomorrow, but you know, we're hearing rumors. What's up, Dave? I found him very open to suggestions.
Oh, he is.
Yeah,
No
so
question.
I don't think anything's trying to be slowed by us.
No, it's just the designers that are modern and, I mean, even if it was a
Yeah.
painting.
So maybe as a rendition or some model for that. Second thing, in the board stuff, there. 3-year terms is in their bylaws.
Oh, I know
Secondly,
it's 3.
secondly, they set the, they have so many directors and they want them an equal number to turn over each year. As it turned out in the beginning, this was how it was. But their bylaws also allow for adjusting terms to keep the turnover the same every year. So I don't know what they're doing, but they have the mechanism by which to do it. Seems like I missed commenting to something you said in between those
Oh, I
two.
think that's right. I just thought it was not handy having them both go off at the same time.
Oh, yeah, that's it. So what they've done recently is establish an emeritus category. There are people on the board who have been on 9 years, Dick and Ray, will still be able to go to meetings and not vote, but be able to mentor or tutor or somehow
That's good.
those who be chosen will be shadowing them for a while. So they have a process in place. Tom, you hold that one, I'll take one to the back.
There already is a mural up. Can you tell me where it is? Who can tell me where it is?
Or that,
A mural.
oh, well,
Where is the mural?
Electronic.
No, a wall mural. You see it every time you go into the dining room. It's on that wall.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a Hudson Valley thing. So, you know, I mean, we don't really know what they're planning, but I agree, we ought to see it first.
It's a bright electronic looking rendition.
like I said, we need to see
We
it
need to
before.
see it.
The issue of the having too many people on a particular role turning over at the same time, it's not a healthy situation. I've been in several boards and different organizations. The way to handle it is to stagger the terms. I mean, it's very simple, very easy to do.
Well, they do stagger it for the larger board. It's just that the two resident members happen to have the same.
They should have been doing.
Okay, any other ears business? Okay, I have one more thing, and it comes related to the topic of old business. I would like us for next time, and I'll put this as an agenda item, to look at the liaison list, not just the list of people, but the list of committees. There's a couple of things on there I think need to be fixed. There's a couple of committees that don't have liaisons. There's a group listed as a committee, which really isn't a committee. That's the Garden Club is listed as a committee. And there's 2 committees that are listed as committees that don't have liaisons, and that would be the current affairs and the interfaith. Yeah, so we want to, I think we need to figure out how we want to handle them. And also, well, I guess we'll wait till we get that updated to submit an updated list of that to be swapped out for a residents handbook page. The information in there is at the end of 2023. So we'll get this updated and then put it in. Any other business? get a motion to
Motion we adjourn.
adjourn, Tom and Evelyn? Any opposed? Thank you all very much. Give me 2 minutes. Thank you, Minor.
Not done yet.
Thank you twice for your product.
You want, do that.
Else, Ken?
But we don't know who contact to get the. But was that Charles?
That's good. I originally agreed on that.
I wanted to let you It covered the shoulder up. I think it's like, it's not, I'm